It's Tuesday, July 22nd. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. A teenager convicted in a fatal mall stabbing could face an adult sentence. A controversial Monton scrapyard does not get its license renewed.
Temperatures warm up through the middle of the week, with showers still expected Friday.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. A fourth teenager has now been convicted in the death of Ahmed Al-Marak. A judge found a 17-year-old guilty of manslaughter in connection with the Halifax shopping mall stabbing. As CTV's Callum Smith reports, he could face an adult sentence.
The 17-year-old is let out of the courtroom after learning Judge Elizabeth Buckle found his planning and starting the group assault was a significant and contributing cause of Al-Marak's death and found the teen guilty of manslaughter. Buckle called it a brutal group assault involving punching and kicking Al-Marak in the head.
We're pleased with the result, but of course the result doesn't change the fact that the victim, is no longer here, and the impact of his death still continues to affect his friends and family and the community at large.
The judge also determined the teen had a knife and believed his friends did too, and that he had considered a potentially serious outcome. Al-Marak asked him to fight over a girl, and the pair agreed over text to a one-on-one fight at the shopping center Parkade April 22nd, 2024. Both brought friends, but it was only the teens who jumped in, only 5 seconds after the fight started. Nearly 2.5 minutes later, Al-Marak suffered a fatal stab wound from another teen. The judge accepted the defense argument that the teen didn't foresee knives would be used, that 2 robberies would be attempted, or that Al-Marak would be stabbed and ultimately die. But she was convinced, beyond a reasonable doubt, that someone in his position should realize his unlawful act could cause significant bodily harm to Al-Marak.
If a group decides to do something together, and one of that group does something else that causes harm, if that something else, the general nature of it, is reasonably foreseeable, then the whole group can be held responsible.
The teen's lengthy second-degree murder trial began in January and wrapped up in April, with the Crown conceding manslaughter was a more appropriate charge. 2 other youths pleaded guilty to manslaughter and 1 pleaded guilty to second-degree murder. The Crown says it's a sign the justice system works. As for this teen, the Crown requested 3 reports, which ultimately could lead them to pursue an adult sentence in this case, but whether or not to grant that application would be in the hands of the judge. Sentencing is scheduled to begin October 20th. Todd.
CTV's Callum Smith at Youth Court in downtown Halifax. A Nova Scotia RCMP officer has been charged with sexual assault. Constable Manus Pare of the Inverness Detachment is accused of assaulting a female RCMP officer on May 16th. CERT, that's the independent body that reviews serious incidents involving police, found grounds for the charge. Constable Pare will appear in Port Hawkesbury Court August 19th. He continues to be paid his salary while suspended. A metal scrapyard at the center of controversy in Monton will not get its operating license renewed by the province. Neighbors of the American Iron and Metal facility have complained about noise from the site for a while now. We get details from CTV's Derek Haggett.
Things were very quiet in the Monton neighborhood of Louisville this morning, and that suits the residents here just fine.
Everybody's saying, "Oh my God, we can hear the birds." Right now, we've just heard it. There's no noise.
The province of New Brunswick will not be renewing the license for the American Iron and Metal facility in Monton, citing problems with the site's noise complaints. AIM Recycling received a letter from the Minister of Public Safety last Friday about the decision not to renew the license.
I'm over the moon, absolutely over the moon, but I'm also waiting for the other shoe to fall. I find it difficult to believe that it's actually happened, although it's nice and quiet here.
The metal recycling facility received numerous complaints from residents over the past few years. The province did note the Quebec-based company had taken steps to deal with those complaints and even built a massive wall of shipping containers to try and reduce the sound. But it wasn't enough for some neighbors who called the noise unbearable.
You can't sit outside. You can't enjoy your backyard. We made this our forever home, and I've been even thinking of moving away.
The province determined Monton was located within 300 meters of a public playground, public park or school, and is not in compliance with a section of the Unsightly Premises Act. Therefore, the salvage dealer license will not be renewed.
The company has 90 days to do a judicial review, and as a government, we will follow the process.
CTV News reached out to AIM for comment, but did not hear back by news time. As far as any potential job losses go, neighbors here tell me that's not what they want, but they would like to see the company relocate to a non-residential area. Todd.
All right, Derek, in the hub city tonight. New Brunswick has inked a deal with Manitoba to knock down trade barriers between the provinces. Creating one economy was on the agenda today as Canada's premiers met with the Prime Minister. CTV's Avery McRae reports.
On day 2 of the First Minister's meeting in Ontario's cottage country, the Prime Minister had a message for the nation's premiers.
What we collectively can most control is building a stronger economy, moving from alliance to resilience and division to unity.
That unity has been on full display in Huntsville. Last night, Premier Susan Holt signed a deal between New Brunswick and Manitoba that will allow for free movement of goods and workers between the provinces. While he didn't sign anything, Premier Tim Houston emphasized the need for one economy.
Everyone is really united and on the same page of just really seizing the opportunities that are before us that in the past we may have looked away from, that right now we're all looking squarely at.
He says with unity comes competition, as premiers will fight for their projects to be greenlit by Ottawa. On the top of Houston's pitch list, an offshore wind farm dubbed Wind West, he says could supply upwards of a quarter of Canada's electricity.
Everybody is, in some respects, waiting for the major projects office to open. That will be open, we understand, maybe by Labor Day, and there'll be capacity in there to really do analysis on them.
It'll make for tough decisions ahead for the new Prime Minister.
It's very difficult to please everyone. So Carney will have to confront that he is going to make decisions that will make some premiers and some provincial governments very happy and others not.
But before then, an August 1st deadline looms for a trade deal with the U.S. to avoid tariffs threatened to be as high as 35% by U.S. President Donald Trump.
It sounds like we're making some progress, although honestly, our trading partner is unpredictable and inconsistent, and so we were reassured, I think, by what the Prime Minister and the Minister LeBlanc had to say about how they're treating this.
The Prime Minister said he will only be accepting the best deal for Canadians. Avery McRae, CTV News, St. John.
And there's a live look at St. John right now where it's currently sunny, 21 degrees. Let's get our first look at the forecast. Generally nice day, maybe a little on the cooler side than some would like if they're on vacation around the shore, Kalen, but a pretty decent day altogether.
I try to reserve the word crisp for the fall weather, but it did feel a little crisp this morning.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, temperature's a little bit cooler. It's a very dry air in place around the Maritimes. Now, temperatures heading into the first part of this evening, high teens and low 20s. Very little in the way of cloud cover, though. It is a ridge of high pressure that's moving in from the west, and generally clear conditions for tonight. I'd say mostly clear because there will be some very broken high cloud cover drifting in from the west. Should make it an ideal night to do some night sky viewing. So here's a couple things you can see in the night sky. It's a waning crescent moon, 9% illuminated, but it'll be below the horizon for most of the night, which actually means spotting some of the planets is a little bit easier. The planet Mars setting on the western horizon this evening. Saturn will be above the southern horizon and Venus above the eastern horizon during the pre-dawn hours of tomorrow. Perseids meteor shower is now active. The radiant point rises high above the northeast after midnight. The predicted peak, though, not until next month, August 12th and 13th, Todd.
That's a good one. Always look forward to that. Yeah, a lot to see. Okay, Kayla, thank you. We'll see you in about 16 minutes for the full forecast. The spirit of Canadian nationalism in response to the U.S. tariffs is proving to be a boon for local liquor producers. Numbers show Maritimers who can't buy American alcohol right now are snapping up local bottles. Here's our Jesse Thomas.
Nova Scotia liquor store shelves have been cleared of American alcohol since February, and local producers are reaping the benefit.
We're certainly seeing a growth in sales. There's no question about it. That is, there's absolutely a movement towards Canadian, movement towards Nova Scotian.
Premier Tim Houston ordered the NSLC pull all U.S. booze as a retaliation to American tariffs on Canadian goods. Houston has said the ban will remain as long as the tariffs do, a boost for Nova Scotia wine and spirit makers. Nova Scotia wine is flying off the shelves. Sales across the board are up 14.5% over last year, while spirit sales are flying higher, up 26.7%. Yost's version of Tidal Bay is the top-selling Tidal Bay wine in NSLC stores. Its sales are up 27% since March.
To see that amount of growth in that short a period of time, there's something significant happening. There's a momentum shift, right? There's change. People are exploring. Things are a little bit different than they were last year at the same time.
Halifax's Compass Distillers is known for its gin royal, but with the U.S. booze ban, they've seen sales of their whiskey take off. They launched an Elbows Up, better than bourbon corn whiskey that's sold out quickly.
We emptied 2 barrels to make this product. It was actually kind of a spur-of-the-moment situation.
That's nearly 800 bottles sold in 6 weeks. And with more shelf space to fill, the NSLC is asking for more local.
We were able to provide 3 new products to the NSLC this spring, following 2 other products that we put in with them in the winter, just as things were happening.
Meanwhile, it's not just Nova Scotia products benefiting. The NSLC says Canadian wine sales across the board are up nearly 13%, while Canadian whiskey sales are up 10% compared to last year. A win for local producers amid this ongoing trade war, one bottle at a time. Jesse Thomas, CTV News, Halifax.
In tonight's web poll, we're asking, do you purchase more maritime-made liquor since the tariff dispute began? Your options are yes, no, or I don't buy liquor. You can make your selection at ctvnewsatlantic.ca. An e-bike store on Quimple Road in Halifax went up in flames this morning. Crews arrived at the BMG e-bikes around 9 o'clock after receiving notice of an alarm. They say the store was filled with smoke. They managed to get everyone out of the building safely. Firefighters had to take special precautions to remove the bike batteries from the store.
What we did was we removed a couple of the batteries and the e-bikes that were affected by the fire. So what we do there in that case is we take the batteries and we put them in what we call an overpack drum, which makes them safe, so then they can be removed by a proper removal company.
Investigators are still looking into the cause of that fire. Monton needs a 6th fire station and a lot more firefighters. A report presented to Moncton City Council last night made 64 recommendations, including a 6th fire station. The review said 2 older fire halls need to be replaced, while a 3rd should be relocated. It also recommends hiring 76 firefighters over the next 15 years in the growing city.
Well, obviously the city has grown, the population has grown. About 10 years ago we had about 5,000 calls a year. This year we're going to surpass 10,000, so that's a huge, doubling our call volume in 10 years is huge.
Chief Conrad Landry says the rough estimate for new hires and buildings would cost around $200 million over that 15-year period. Cape Breton construction workers have reached a tentative agreement that could end a strike. You can read about the details at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. And still in Cape Breton, there's no fishing right now on one of Canada's most famous salmon rivers. There's fish in the Margarite, that's not the problem. The Cape Breton River, though, is too warm and running too low. CTV's Ryan McDonald reports.
The famed Margarite River in the Cape Breton Highlands is closed to fishing these days because river levels are too low and the water is too warm.
We've had temperatures exceed 26 degrees on parts of the river.
The head of the Margarite Salmon Association says that decision was made last Thursday when the island was in the middle of a heat wave and at the tail end of a long dry spell. With the rock bed still visible in parts of the shallow water and salmon fishing critical to the area, the river remains closed to fishing even in today's cooler temperatures.
Basically, we're trying to protect the salmon, and by closing the whole river, we hope that any incidental mortality from catching and releasing salmon will be alleviated by us closing the whole river for a period of time.
McNeil says while river closures aren't unheard of in the Margarite, this particular section of river, known locally as Section 2, is currently closed for the first time in the Salmon Association's history.
It's challenging for sure for the tourism industry.
The head of Destination Cape Breton says while the Margarite River attracts anglers from all around the world, they recently did a niche market focus on sport fishers, which included trying to raise awareness about other bodies of water on the island.
It's certainly developmental. You know, the Margarite is the pinnacle of where people want to come. But, you know, there's an education process to letting people know that there are other sport fishing areas on the island.
McNeil says the river is still open for things like swimming and tubing, and the hope now is simply for more rain.
We've had recent rain, which may change that this coming week. There may be another call by Friday where we'll decide whether or not to keep it closed or to reopen portions of the river.
He adds the longer-term hope is that the river will fully rebound come peak salmon fishing season in October. Ryan McDonald, CTV News in the Margarite.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
PEI's Pride Festival is in a few days, but not everyone is ready to celebrate. Over the weekend, a man ripped down rainbow flags from a storefront. CTV's Maria Saru reports.
He's walking down the street Saturday night when the pride flags outside a Charlottetown shop catch his attention. The man rips them off, making sure none are missed, then throws them on the street.
Hate still very much exists, and I think a lot of us islanders live with rose-colored glasses on, thinking that it doesn't, but those who know, and this is proof.
Today, store owner Tiffany McPhee is flying even more flags. Her security camera captured the whole incident. She says at first the tantrum was a little funny, but became more disturbing. She filed a police report and made a donation to Peers Alliance, a PEI organization which supports LGBTQ2S+ communities.
It's another act of meeting hate with love, and that's what we do here. We need to keep doing the work.
The incident is part of a wider wave that queer islanders are worried about, says Peer Alliance's executive director.
For a while, people have been feeling more and more fear, and something like this is just sort of evidence that, Prince Edward Island is not immune to this trend that we're seeing.
The newest numbers from Statistics Canada show hate crimes targeting sexual orientation increased by 69% in 2023. And this year, several were reported across the country. In Newfoundland, perpetrators defaced a rainbow crosswalk. In Nova Scotia, RCMP arrested a woman accused of vandalizing a home's pride flags. And in British Columbia, a flag raising was postponed after someone cut the ropes. National experts warn this troubling pattern plays out every Pride season.
Folks who are inclined to discriminate against LGBTI people are a lot more organized than they've ever been.
PEI's Pride Festival starts Friday. Local advocates aren't anticipating hate or ruling it out, reminding folks that if conflict comes up, not to fight. Instead, to call security and form a physical barrier to protect those at risk. Maria Saru, CTV News, Charlottetown.
Time for us to take our first break of the evening. Still to come, a mostly clear night ahead in the region. Kaylin returns with his full forecast. But next, what's keeping people out of the water?
We've received about 30 reports of suspected blue-green algal blooms.
Blue-green algae sours summer on some lakes. We'll explain after this. More cases of blue-green algae are popping up on lakes across Nova Scotia, but it seems it's not as bad as the past few years. Here's our Jonathan McGinnis.
From a distance, Elbow Lake looks like any other body of water. A closer look, however, shows the presence of blue-green algae. The lake in Stillwater Lake, Nova Scotia, is the latest to be added to the list of sites where the bacteria has been identified.
As a department, we've received about 30 reports of suspected blue-green algal blooms.
19 of them have been confirmed across the province by the Department of Environment and Climate Change. That's less than this time last year.
We had a very early hot spell in Nova Scotia in 2024, and that translated to an early bump in the rise of actual and reported blooms. So we didn't have a hot early start to 2025.
Officials with the city of Halifax are also seeing a decrease in reported cases.
We've had some beaches that were closed almost for the entire summer last year, and so this year we've actually only had one instance of blue-green algae at our beaches.
That was at Oakfield Park Beach. Where present, lifeguards play a role in keeping people safe before they enter the water.
When we have blue-green algae closures at beach, the lifeguards will stay on scene to suggest people that they stay out of the water.
Blue-green algae, also known as cyanobacteria, are naturally occurring microscopic bacteria that are common to freshwater lakes, rivers, and streams. Coming into contact with it can cause some minor health problems.
There would typically be limited to things like irritations of your skin or nose and throat. They can cause diarrhea or rashes.
Cameron Dekoff recommends checking the province's website for locations where the bacteria has been identified. Blue-green algae tends to be present from May to October. And Todd, if anyone finds what they think might be blue-green algae, they are encouraged to take a photo of it, then call the nearest office of the Department of Environment and Climate Change to report it. Todd.
All right, John, some good advice there. Thank you. Well, it's clear Maritimers are not tempted to drive to the U.S. to hit those summer hot spots this year. Data reveals a greater number of us are not crossing the international border in New Brunswick. CTV's Nick Moore has the numbers.
Traffic heading from St. Stephen to border crossings in Calais, Maine were down 33% last month compared to June 2024. Traffic was down 33% at the Holton, Maine border as well, near Woodstock, with a 28% decline in traffic at the Madawaska, Maine customs across the St. John River from Edmundston. This is all according to data from the U.S. Customs and Border Protections Agency, which shows that nearly 179,000 passenger vehicles, pedestrians, and trucks entered Maine from New Brunswick in June, compared to about 255,000 the year before. Altogether, that is a drop of nearly 30% and follows a trend that began developing at the beginning of the year.
The transfer of goods between us, New Brunswick and Maine, is constant and critical.
The summer tourism season began with Maine Governor Janet Mills visiting New Brunswick last month to convey a message of welcome, ordering signs saying as much to be posted at border crossings and tourist destinations in Maine. Elsewhere, there appears to be frustration with the drop in traffic. On Monday, U.S. Ambassador to Canada Pete Hoekstra told a conference audience that Trump felt Canada was nasty to deal with because of the boycotts on both alcohol and travel.
Canadians staying home, that's their business. I don't like it, but if that's what they want to do, it's fine. You want to ban American alcohol, that's fine. It doesn't necessarily send real positive signals in terms of they're treating us well.
Last year, nearly 800,000 Canadians visited Maine, putting about $500 million U.S. into the state's economy. Nick Moore, CTV News, Fredericton.
All right, still to come. Temperatures climbing a few degrees higher tomorrow. Kaylin will have the details in the full weather forecast as we sail into this next commercial break. There's a live shot of St. John's Harbor right now where it is well, let's call it a cool 13 degrees, which is not necessarily bad news for our friends in Newfoundland and Labrador, because on the north coast, of course, they've been battling those wildfires, and they could use any help that Mother Nature can offer.
They got a little bit from the same weather system that brought us some rounds of July rain and showers Sunday into Monday. That same weather front went across parts of Newfoundland. They saw some rain from that. They could certainly use more. Their next shot is going to come with the next weather system that's going to be maybe bringing us more widespread showers. That's coming up towards the end of this week. It does look like it was enough to bring the fire danger rating down for parts of Newfoundland. However, it does remain elevated, especially through the interior of the island and and much like the Maritimes.
Especially dry.
Yeah, they've had a very dry July, so they are definitely looking for more rain.
Okay.
Let's take a look at weather conditions across the country. We'll begin out west. Right now we've got 23 degrees and sunshine at Vancouver, 21 and sunny at Prince George. A bit more of a mix of sun and cloud at Fort St. John. Calgary is much cooler, and they are seeing rain currently and sitting at 9 degrees. And then through Saskatchewan and Manitoba, most of the alerts that are in place are still related to air quality because of the presence of wildfire smoke, and even some of those air quality statements moving over into parts of northern Ontario. Sudbury right now, mix of sun and cloud and 23 degrees. It's sunnier at Windsor and sitting at 26, 23 at both Ottawa and Montreal, as well as Quebec City. Fredericton right now sitting at 24. We've got 22 at Halifax and Charlottetown, and it continues to cool around St. John's down to around 8 degrees. Taking a look now at things on our timeline for cloud cover and precipitation for tonight. Talked about this earlier with high pressure moving into place. It's going to be a mainly clear night, some very thin, broken high cloud cover around. Temperatures again for late July, maybe a little bit on the cooler side, so expect a slightly brisk start to the day for tomorrow, very similar to today. But tomorrow's temperatures will actually warm up compared to today. It'll be mostly sunny in the afternoon, a little bit of thin high cloud cover, a few clouds around for Wednesday evening and Wednesday night. On Thursday, a bit more of a mix of sun and cloud. There'll be a chance of showers through the day in northern areas of New Brunswick, with showers expected to become more widespread for the Maritimes on Friday. Though with the showers on Friday, there may be a risk of some thunderstorms. Winds in the forecast for tonight, they continue to get lighter as we move towards and after midnight. The wind direction changes from northwest over to a west and southwest wind for Wednesday. That's going to be relatively light. Sustained winds 10 to 20 kilometers per hour. A few gusts between 20 and 30. Low temperatures tonight for many parts of New Brunswick, falling into range around 8 to 13 degrees. Low teens expected for Prince Edward Island, most areas of Nova Scotia as well. Here's a look at the high temperatures coming up for Wednesday in the north of New Brunswick. We've got 25 for Edmundston, near 26 for Campbellton, and up to 27 degrees around Bathurst and Miramichi. On the Quebec side of the Gaspé Peninsula, New Richmond tomorrow with a high temperature near 25. Down through central and southern areas of New Brunswick, we've got 27 in the forecast. St. Stephen, McAdam, Fredericton, and Moncton. Temperatures come down just a couple degrees around the Bay of Fundy coastline. Graminan, Campobello near 24, and St. John near 25. Prince Edward Island for tomorrow, 25 at O'Leary and Summerside, up to 26 though for Cavendish and Charlottetown. Make sure you're checking in on provincial information related to the current conditions for coastal areas in PEI, especially around the north coast. They've had some alerts about rip currents being present over the last couple of days. Cape Breton, high temperatures tomorrow in the range of 22 to 26 degrees, near the mid-20s on the north shore of mainland Nova Scotia, the eastern shore, with highs of 22 to 25 degrees. 25 for Amherst, 27 for Truro, city centers Halifax and Dartmouth near 26 degrees. Speaking of Amherst, at the end of the program tonight, our viewer picture tonight coming from Amherst. 26 for the Annapolis Valley, and on the south shore of Nova Scotia, most of the highs between 22 and 26. 7-day forecast for New Brunswick. Temperatures headed up here for Thursday. Showers in the north of the province. Showers more widespread on Friday. Sunshine. Hotter summer temperatures in the forecast for the weekend into the start of next week. There's a chance of showers on Tuesday. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, a mix of sun and cloud on Thursday. We've got some showers expected on Friday, though temperatures still plenty warm. Mix of sun and cloud on Saturday, sunny on Sunday. Chance of showers Monday into Tuesday of next week. And for Prince Edward Island coming up for Thursday, mix of sun and cloud, highs near 26 on Friday with showers in the forecast. Mix of sun and cloud for both Saturday and Sunday, looking sunnier on Monday. Todd.
Won't complain about that. All right. Thank you, Caleb. We'll see you later for the Wake Up Weather. Next, we're joined by Lennox Island Chief Tabitha Bernard to talk about Canada's infrastructure bill and getting projects done. And later, losing Ozzy.
Ozzy Osbourne is dead at the age of 76. I'm Rena Roy, and I'll have the latest coming up.
Okay, so we're back at it tomorrow. Virgin Radio's Check-in to Win. Chance to win our trip off to London, England.
Yeah, make sure you join us for those cues to text.
Plus, we'll have your shot at $100 to Sobeys.
Well,
as you saw earlier in the newscast, the Prime Minister met with the premiers today. Last week, he met with Canada's Indigenous leaders to discuss the contentious Bill C-5, which allows the federal cabinet to approve major projects in this country. One of those people who attended the event was Chief Tabitha Bernard of Lennox Island First Nation, and she joins us from her office in Lennox Island. It's nice to see you, Chief.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. The meeting last week was your first. You're fairly new elected. What, about 6 weeks in the chair now?
6 weeks in the chair, yes.
All right. Okay. What was your impression of that conference in Ottawa?
I felt that the Prime Minister is willing to work with the First Nations peoples. I felt that he was there, he was listening, he wanted to hear what we had to say, he was engaged. So I'm hoping that the end result, we're gonna be able to sit down and work together.
That's important, because that wasn't necessarily the consensus among fellow chiefs going into that meeting.
No. But sitting down at the tables, speaking with the First Nations, speaking with the regional chiefs, I believe that some positives come out of that. Like, just to be there with the Prime Minister was a big step. It was a huge step for us.
Your question was selected for the session with Mr. Carney. What did you ask?
So I basically asked the Prime Minister about smaller First Nations. And I had asked that with the smaller First Nations not being able to get their elbows up, like, we need to be at the table, we need to be considered. And I recognize that there's an increase in capacity funds, but it's our recommendation that First Nations must be required to be partners or beneficiaries by default in projects within or affecting lands and waters. And they chose that question. And he did say that he was looking at that, and he was willing to move towards that too as well. There was going to be no decision made that day, but
right.
Yeah.
Were you satisfied with that response?
Yeah, I was.
What are the priorities when you look at projects, nation building? What are your priorities for Lennox Island?
Wind and energy. I believe that the Lennox Island has big wind energy and solar energy projects that I think could fit into the Eastern Energy Partnership that has been talked about. But whatever projects get on that list, like, we need to be there at that table. And for me, for Lennox Island, this is going to provide our members employment, training opportunities, and own source revenues for our band.
So you've got a couple projects on the go, in the works already. Is that right?
We do.
Yeah.
And at this time, I'd rather wait on that piece until I get more briefings on those.
Sure, fair enough. What's the relationship been with industry as you've been moving along with these?
Great. There's lots of discussion, and things seem to be going well. So I want to caution myself right now. I just want to.
Sure. You've been on council for a while. You're chief now, of course. Have you noticed a shift in the approach that governments and industry has been taking in regards to working with First Nations like Lennox?
Yes. Yeah. We're being heard. When we ask questions, when we attend meetings, the First Nation people are being heard, and that's what we want. Like, we get our points across, and we're working hard to help our community. I'm working hard to help my community. You know, I want to move projects forward. I want to work with the government, and I feel positive on that.
When you talk about being at the table, what does that look like? What does that entail?
So for me, being at the table is to be able to sit, have open dialogue, speak to the ministers, and talk to them about our concerns, talk to them about what's going on in our communities, and to be able to say, like, this is what's happening. This is what's happening in our community, and I know there's cuts, I know there's different things taking place, but how do we work together? How do we do this? How are we going to work together to better our First Nations?
And do you see a pathway to greater wealth with these projects you're looking at? for your, your community
Yes.
members? Yeah.
Yes, and we're growing. Our community's growing. We've got lots happening here in Lennox Island, and I'm newly elected, so I want to continue that growth. I want to continue being there for my community and making sure that I'm attending these meetings, very important meetings, that's going to move our community forward. I believe that I need to be at that table. In order to do so, I have to attend these meetings and stand up for what we believe in, what's right.
Well, Chief Bernard, we certainly appreciate you taking the time to tell us about that meeting last week and your plans for your community. Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome. Malawi.
Malawi, we'll take a break. We'll be back with more of your local news after this. In our health and medical segment, we look at the impact early smartphone use can have on young children. CTV's Amanda Debison has that and more in the Tuesday installment of The Lifeline.
New research recommends parents and guardians not give smartphones to children younger than 13.
According to the study of nearly 2 million people in more than 160 countries, smartphone use by kids under the age of 13 was associated with mental health problems, especially among girls. The mental health issues include suicidal thoughts, poor emotional regulation, lower self-worth, and detachment from reality. The study found that for every year before age 13 that a person acquired a smartphone, their mental health and well-being were likely to be lower. That's likely because the kids who used smartphones earlier accessed social media more and experienced sleep disruptions, cyberbullying, and negative family relationships. The study was published in the Journal of the Human Development and Capabilities. Prescription weight loss medication use has been linked to significantly higher rates of eating disorders in adolescent boys and men. That's according to a new study from the University of Toronto. The study analyzed data from 1,500 boys and men from Canada and the U.S. who were between the ages of 15 and 35. While only 1.2% of the sample reported using prescription weight loss medication in the past 12 months, they were much more likely to report eating disorder attitudes and behaviors than others. The study was published in the journal Eating Behaviors. Finally, ultra-processed foods can be bad for your health in many ways, but experts say there's at least one ultra-processed food that may be good for you and the planet: plant-based meats. While salt and saturated fat are still concerns, a new report on plant-based meats found that these foods can be a valid and helpful way to shift toward a more plant-forward diet, which can be good for people and the world. Studies show eating a plant-first diet, like the Mediterranean diet, can reduce the risk for diabetes, high cholesterol, dementia, memory loss, depression, breast cancer, and more. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
Ozzy Osbourne, the heavy metal rocker known for outrageous acts on stage and off, has died at the age of 76. ABC's Rena Roy looks back at a rock and roll life.
Ozzy Osbourne, undoubtedly one of the most beloved and iconic heavy metal performers, has died at the age of 76. His family saying it's with more sadness than mere words can convey that we have to report that our beloved Ozzy Osbourne has passed away this morning. He was with his family and surrounded by love. Osbourne co-founded the band Black Sabbath in 1968 in his hometown of Birmingham, England. He gained notoriety for his often drug and alcohol-fueled antics on stage, which earned him the nicknames the Prince of Darkness and the Metal Madman. Osbourne was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease back in 2019, speaking with ABC News about the illness in 2022.
How's your mobility these days?
Not great, but I mean, I have to negotiate everywhere I'm going to go, you know. And I tire easily. But I'm well. Right. My family have been absolutely wonderful while I've been laid up.
Rock and roll! He gained fans from a younger generation, starring with his family on the reality TV show The Osbournes, which aired on MTV in the early 2000s. He was known for hits including Iron Man, Paranoid, War Pigs, Crazy Train, and Bark at the Moon, both with the band and as a solo star. His death comes just weeks after reuniting with his Black Sabbath bandmates and performing a huge farewell concert for fans back in Birmingham, taking the stage for the final time. He once said this about performing.
When I get on a stage, something takes over. My spirit becomes alive.
And Osbourne was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as a Black Sabbath member back in 2006. He leaves behind his wife Sharon and his 6 children. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Mornings with Aaron and Peter. What little lie did you have to keep for way too long? Tomorrow at 7.
And play $1,000 Minute at 7 as well. The answer to question number 10 will be Reykjavik.
Our daily look at the markets. The Dow ended the day up 180 points, and U.S. stocks hit yet another record today as Washington signaled that it's making progress in those trade talks. Andrew Bell has the details.
Hello there. America's broad S&P 500 stock index hit a new record high. That's after the Treasury Secretary, Scott Bessent, said that he'll meet next week in Stockholm with his Chinese counterparts as they embark on a third round of talks aimed at extending a tariff truce. The Treasury chief told Bloomberg that, quote, trade is in a very good place with China. Yields on U.S. bonds fell, which often indicates that investors are less nervous about inflation. But there are clouds on the tariff front. Reuters said the European Union is exploring a broader set of countermeasures against the U.S. as prospects faded for an acceptable agreement. Toronto stocks rose, but they were still just down from Thursday's record high. Heavily weighted Shopify declined. It was cut to hold by an analyst at Loop Capital who said the shares look richly priced at around 15 times revenue. On the markets, the Canadian dollar was strong. It changed hands at 73.5 US cents, up about 0.4 of a cent. West Texas Intermediate oil traded at $65.31, down 64 cents. Our latest fix on Western Canadian Select oil has it at $53.60, up 21 cents. And the TSX finished at 27,364.43, up just under 47 points. That's the latest in business. I'm Andrew Bell of BNN Bloomberg.
So, Kalen, everything in positive territory, including the temperatures?
Yeah, it's actually quite pleasant out here right now. I would describe the temperatures as mild for a late July evening, just a little bit of a breeze and a couple few fair weather clouds around. Let's take a look at a viewer picture for tonight. Now tonight, or last night, I should say, on the back half of that system that was going through, there was some active weather in the Maritimes. There were some thunderstorms in the vicinity of a number of communities, including Amherst. But following those thunderstorms, some pretty spectacular rainbows. And this picture came in from Steve A. from the Amherst area. We've got, of course, that first brilliant rainbow and then a second rainbow. So it's a double rainbow arcing high above it. Fainter, of course, and Nova Scotia flag flying there. I want to thank Steve very much for sending that picture in. Tomorrow, Amherst, sunshine, 25 degrees. Start of the day for tomorrow, sort of a fresh feel into the air in the morning hours. Morning temperatures around the low to mid-teens. And moving into Wednesday afternoon, mostly sunny to a fair weather mix of sun and cloud, and a little bit warmer than today with high temperatures mostly up to around the mid to high 20s. Todd.
All right, that looks good. Kalen, you have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow.
Thank you.
And finally for us this evening, a main attraction for Halifax's men's pro soccer team. During her recent visit, the governor of Maine, you see her there, Janet Mills, and Premier Tim Houston arranged for the Halifax Wanderers to play a friendly match against the new Portland Hearts of Pine. It's the name of the team in the United Soccer League. The game will be in that city on August 6th. There are limited tickets available for Wanderers fans hoping to make the trip to southern Maine. Mills traces her family roots to Pugwash, Nova Scotia, so perhaps this is the beginning of a Heritage Cup competition between the East Coast clubs. That is our look at the day here at home. It runs again in a moment on CTV2. Bruce Frisco has our late news at 11:30 after the National. CTVNewsAtlantic.ca is always updating. The poll is there too. We hope to see you tomorrow night at 6. Till then, have a good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast.